Ready when you are, Ed. All right. Good evening, everybody. Tim Richmond from Wapello County Emergency Management. Tonight, we are broadcasting from the Emergency Operations Center, and we're social distancing in here, so you'll only see one of us at a time. With me this evening will be Mayor Lazio, Lynelle Diers, Director of Public Health, Dr. Dennis-Smithart with the Board of Health, and Kevin Hatfield representing many of our small business partners. So first up will be Lynelle Diers, and I will clean the podium so we can practice cleaning our surfaces so we don't cross-contaminate. Lynelle, it's all yours.
Thank you, Tim. I'm Lynelle Diers. I'm the Director of Wapello County Public Health. Wapello County, along with all counties in Iowa, have been told by the Iowa Department of Public Health and Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds to stay at home. And if you must go out, maintain a 6-foot distance. Remember, we currently have no treatment or vaccine against this virus. While many have responded well to physical distancing orders, as a community, we are not doing enough. Without strictly following social distancing, we know for certain COVID-19 will continue to be spread exponentially for weeks and months. It is extremely important in order to protect ourselves, our families, friends, and community that we stay home. Easter and spring holidays are a traditional time of family gatherings, celebrations, and observances. Like many other events and activities, Wapello County Public Health advises residents that these observances should be different this year. We know many families gather together over Easter and Passover, but like school, shopping, and most other activities, we're asking residents to modify their plans in light of COVID-19. Gatherings of family and friends, whether in Wapello County or by travel to other states, is discouraged. When people come together, the chances of spreading the COVID-19 virus grows. Although people with symptoms of the virus, coughing, fever, and shortness of breath, obviously should not be around other people. Even those who are seemingly well should do the same. We are learning that some people with coronavirus don't have any symptoms, and that even those who later develop symptoms can pass the virus to others before showing symptoms. This is why even people who do not feel ill should stay home. Families and friends are encouraged to find alternative ways to observe holidays and to stay connected. Try Skype, Zoom, FaceTime, or other electronic means of connecting, and phone calls and letters are especially welcome during this time of social distancing. The Wapello County Public Health continues to work closely with the Iowa Department of Public Health, the Wapello County Board of Health, local officials, healthcare providers, and emergency management to respond to this ongoing pandemic. Stay healthy over the holidays.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ronda Dennis-Smithart. I'm now a safe distance from everybody in the room, so I've taken my mask off. As the spread of COVID-19 continues, we've all been asked to socially distance ourselves. What does that mean? That means stay home and practice safe, hygienic measures. First of all, avoid groups of more than 10 or more. Second of all, reduce close contact between one another. Third, Stay home as much as possible. Avoid crowded places. While it's beautiful outdoors in the spring, you may be tempted to be outdoors and on a playground with your children. But children are going to tend to congregate. They're going to congregate around the slide. They're going to congregate on the swings. Those are not the best places for your kids to be. That's why playgrounds have been closed. So if you have something in the backyard, fine. Otherwise, if you're going to be outdoors, be in a place where there's not others nearby. We want to reduce that close contact between others. If you must do an essential trip, for example, the grocery store or the pharmacy, send one person from the family. Keep everybody else at home. When you arrive, I would encourage you to wear a mask. Now, you don't necessarily need to have a surgical mask like I have from my office, which I am reusing time and time again. A simple cloth mask is also very effective at protecting others around you. The cloth mask will prevent you from spreading potential germs to others, because although you may not be feeling sick today, you may actually be contagious, and we can spread the germs several days before we actually develop any symptoms. So a cloth mask can help protect others around you. Secondly, when you get to the grocery store, wipe the cart down. Third, stay 6 foot away from others. Many of the grocery stores are actually designing arrows to help you follow a track through the store. So follow those guidelines. It's going to help keep all of us safe. When you return, be sure and wash your hands. I personally use some hand sanitizer before I get into my car, and then once I return home, I also wash my hands, doing the 20-second rule each time. While the schools are closed and many of us are working from home, it's still important to maintain a routine with your kids. I would really encourage you to have the children go to bed at the same time as they would during the school year and get up at the same time as they would during the school year. Encourage you to limit screen time. I mean, we're all into social media and there's something constantly on the news or something entertaining, and it's very tempting to keep your kids out of your hair by having them just spend their time scrolling through the computer. But it's not in their best interest. Encourage some outdoor time. Again, maintaining social distances. I had a family the other day that was telling me that their kids were maintaining social distance. They were throwing a ball to a dog, and the dog would fetch it from one family across the yard to another family, and that family would throw the ball back to the dog, who then would catch the ball and bring it back to the first family. I pointed out the dog could potentially be a vector. Those kids were touching that ball and spreading it back and forth. So keep in mind, social distancing, let's not use dogs as vectors. Play dates and sleepovers may be tempting. It might be a tempting way to kind of encourage your kids to be good. Yeah, we'll get to have Sally come over and we'll do a play date tonight. Even though everyone seems to be well, keep in mind, you can spread the virus before you have symptoms. And so I would strongly, strongly encourage you maintain social distancing by not inviting others into your home. The other thing I think we've heard time and time again, wash your hands. Spend the 20 seconds to wash your hands. Time it a couple of times. 20 seconds is longer than you think. If you have to sneeze or you have to cough, don't forget to do it in your sleeve. And that's, you know, maybe that's going to be gross. Yeah, maybe. But you're going to be reminded of it. If you do it in your hands, you're going to touch other things and potentially spread problems throughout your household. If you're going to be out and about, I would again encourage you all to wear a mask. Remember, most of us who get COVID-19 are going to have mild or moderate symptoms. And that's why it's so tricky. And that's why it's being spread so rapidly throughout the world, because we don't know we're symptomatic and we inadvertently spread it to others who may have greater risks of serious illness. So I encourage you to practice that social distancing, stay healthy, and wash your hands.
Thank you, Dr. Dennis-Smithart. That was a great presentation. Good afternoon. I'm Mayor Tom Lazio, and I want to assure the citizens that Ottumwa is working diligently with our county and state officials and our local health partners, public health, and the emergency management operation here where we're recording this today. We're here to protect the health and safety as this virus spreads. We're working together to lower the risk of transmission, infection, and reduce the impact on our home community. City officials and departments are closely following updates and guidance from federal and state officials
concerning COVID-19. The more we follow the advice of these officials, the more we will slow the spread of this virus and make it possible for our health system to manage and control this epidemic. At this time, Governor Reynolds has not issued a shelter-in-place for Iowa. Instead, state officials are attempting to slow the spread of COVID by continuing to restrict specific businesses and recreational opportunities and actions. I want to assure our community that COVID testing is available at our local hospital, Ottumwa Regional Healthcare, and some of the local clinics for individuals who meet the testing criteria. There's been some question on Facebook and phone calls about that. Many questions have been raised about essential versus non-essential businesses and workers. These categories were created at the federal level to define what personnel and services are necessary during national emergencies as guidance for the governors to determine how they will apply these advice and these positions to each state. Many states use this language in their stay-at-home orders. Iowa is not using these terms. Instead, Governor Reynolds has directly told Iowans which businesses need to close and which can stay open. There is no grouping of essential or non-essential in our state. Iowa as a state is essential in terms of our production, our agriculture, and our transportation system. A shelter in place doesn't really change much from what the governor has already ordered and we're following. Please continue to do what you can to help our local small businesses, and many are offering online sales, takeout options, and delivery services. Please take advantage of these alternate ways to support our local small businesses if you can. I understand the frequently changing decisions made at all levels of government to protect us can be confusing and frustrating. I find it that way myself. We continue to work together and to get accurate and understandable information to our businesses and public as quickly as possible. We are social distancing and conducting city council and other important meetings electronically for the public. It's important to me that the business of the city continues and that we set an example of how to conduct our lives at this very difficult time. The health and safety of everyone in our community remains our highest priority as we continue to develop and update plans to protect citizens, our employees, and to ensure that the city can operate and continue services without interruption. Thank you, and we'll continue to provide updates weekly.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Kevin Hatfield, and I work with several local restaurants in the community. Governor Kim Reynolds has issued several proclamations for disaster emergency regarding the outbreak of COVID that close and restrict businesses and retail establishments and prohibit social gatherings to reduce the risk of transmission of COVID. At this time, 40 sectors of business have been listed on the proclamation and ordered closed by Governor Reynolds, and mass gatherings in excess of 10 or more people are prohibited. Businesses not listed in the proclamation are currently allowed to stay open. However, many businesses are electively choosing to close at this time. Some businesses required to close do continue to serve customers through phone or online sales. And in my experience in working with local restaurants, they face challenges that are quite unique and difficult. With dine-in operations closed, they have had to revamp their business model from a focus on dine-in to takeout, curbside, and delivery options. So it's time for our businesses to be creative and think outside the box. On Friday, March 27th, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, the CARES Act, became law. The largest stimulus bill in American history, the CARES Act put into motion a monumentous effort to provide financial relief for millions of Americans who have been economically impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. In particular, the several million Americans who have filed for unemployment since March 14th and the small businesses who employ them. So though the CARES Act is packed with provisions for small business, including emergency government grants and existing loan payment coverage, the $350 billion Paycheck Protection Program might be the most promising portion of the legislation. With its low interest rate and forgiveness potential, the Paycheck Protection Program aims to sustain small businesses through this pandemic without burdening them with significant debt to pay off when the crisis has passed. And in the process, its goal is to keep people in their jobs and stem the tide of unemployment nationwide. Again, the two main highlights are it's low interest and it's deferred. The interest is deferred for 6 months, and there's actually forgiveness potential of the loan if you follow the strict guidelines. For more information for that, you can go to sba.gov and go to the frequently asked questions, and it'll help guide you through the process. If businesses and employees need assistance locally, Workforce Development Center in Ottumwa is available for individual unemployment assistance, and small business owners can contact Indian Hills Small Business Development Center at the Ottumwa Airport for paycheck protection and CARES Act information. Please refer to sba.gov. Thank you.
We're going to have the cleanest podium in the state. Tonight, I want to try and clear up what has been a very complicated concept for some. There's been many questions raised this week, and we've received them here in the EOC about what the shelter-in-place order means and what it doesn't mean. And as you've heard from previous speakers here tonight, Governor Reynolds has not issued a shelter-in-place order. She's talked about this every day in her press conferences about she has some metrics that guides her on when that would be appropriate, when it would not. You've also heard Dr. Fauci speak at the federal level about how well Iowa is doing and how we're handling that. And really not a lot more will change with the shelter-in-place order. It might be the trigger that some folks need to really understand the urgency of this. And we're hoping that as we go along here and we keep sharing with you instructions and messages and guidance, that will sink in a little bit. And my contention is that we're all new to this. This is changing our way of life. It's changing our way of doing business. It's uncomfortable for us. So we're very social people. So I urge people to have patience and understanding and simply have conversations with each other, remind each other to do the things that all of our speakers tonight have talked about, and we'll get better at it. So what Governor Reynolds has done is recommended that Iowans stay at home and do non-essential travel. That's difficult because we all love our cars. She's asked that Iowans social distance when they go outside. That's difficult too because we're used to doing activities together. Restricted business operations, which is really hard for business owners. So they find creative ways to do business, as Kevin's referenced, and restricted recreational opportunities, which is hard as warm weather is upon us. But what we need to recognize is that this is a disaster. This is not a disaster that we're used to. We're used to disasters, meaning it's flood season, it's tornado season, it's severe weather, it's a hazmat spill. We don't think of disasters as a disease problem. But I can't think of any disasters, at least I've personally dealt with or heard about, that are as personal and widespread as a pandemic, because it literally disrupts every aspect of our lives. So about disasters and why emergency management is supporting public health in this operation. Disasters are managed at the local level. We're always taught that disasters begin and end local, but this one's a little different as it didn't begin local, but it sure is local. This is a global thing. So everybody's local disaster is looking the same right now. So we're doing the same methods, we're doing the same mitigation and response activities literally worldwide. So what does that mean to us as Iowans? When these questions come up about restricting civil liberties, there's in that panic of responding to this change in our everyday life, a lot of fear comes to surface and a lot of speculation that perhaps isn't true. So I had this conversation with our county attorney, Ruben Neff, to address some of these concerns and folks that think this is just a ploy to take away our civil liberties. Well, it's really not that easy to take away our civil liberties. Our forefathers thought about this intentionally. So in the US Constitution, under Article 2, it gives the President and Congress the authority to declare a national emergency. And that's exactly what President Trump did to respond to COVID-19. Once that is done, then Governor Reynolds responded likewise and declared a state of emergency. And she has also granted that same power under the Constitution. And so the federal government will issue recommendations, as is out there in some of the FEMA documents, where people get the essential versus not essential language. Those documents are really meant for guidance for governors. It is the governors that manage the emergencies in their state. And Governor Reynolds is doing a good job of that. So we are tasked to execute those management efforts locally. And that's what we're doing as a county, as every other one of Iowa's 99 counties is doing. So to address the freedom of movement issue that's covered under our 14th Amendment in the Constitution, freedom of assembly is defined in the First Amendment of the Constitution. And through the Constitution grants a freedom of movement and may be limited if a law or order that is drawn to serve a compelling state interest. COVID-19 is very much a compelling interest in keeping our citizens safe. So when our forefathers drafted those assurances in our Constitution and gave our elected officials the authority to limit our movement at times, they're temporary. You'll notice that the governor's proclamation has an expiration date. And once that expiration date comes, then that changes things. And so our liberties might be restricted, but it's for a temporary period of time. How we react and act in that period really will determine whether or not our officials had to extend that proclamation or not. And this is a learning curve for us all. None of us have been alive during a pandemic of this nature in our lifetime. We can only study lessons of the past, combine it with the current technology and science that we have today, and do what we can and learn as we go. And so we're literally all in this together. We'll manage it together. We have to encourage each other to remain calm, find creative new ways to do things, enjoy that learning process, and endure this for however long it takes to get through it. And we will get through it. That being said, that's our talking points for this Thursday. We'll be on again next Thursday and keep you abreast of what's going on. Thank you.